What's up, Weebs? Welcome back to the Weeboo podcast, the ranked 999th best anime podcast on Spotify, according to nobody. How are you doing, Pat? How's Singapore? I know you're back there, so maybe you want to give us a rundown of how things are over there.
Singapore is great. It's the same as it's always been. Hot, rainy, good food, good alcohol, too much alcohol, and expensive, but overall it's pretty good. You know, there's an Attack on Titan exhibit going around Marina Bay Sands, which for those who don't know, Singapore is a very famous area, luxury shopping, too expensive. It's great for window shopping, great for eye shopping. Not really good for the wallet, but Singapore is beautiful. For all those who have never been, would highly recommend. Everyone speaks English. It's very easy to get around. Overall, a very, fun place to be. And, seeing the love of anime here, I mean, why wouldn't you want to come?
What's this like AOT art exhibit? Is it just like the original drawings or people's original art that artists are making from AOT or what?
So Singapore has an art science museum, and there's an Attack on Titan exhibit essentially going on to kind of commemorate 10 years of Hajime Isayama's work. So they got a bunch of different things. They have like giant Titan figurines. I haven't looked too much into it. My friends were going. They told me, you should try and get a ticket. I was looking today, and everything was sold out on the day they were going. So if I can't get in, I can't get in. Maybe I'll just have to go on a different day. But it seems pretty cool. So it's basically just a standard exhibit, but the showcase for currently right now is Attack on Titan. So it's the Attack on Titan's first presentation in Southeast Asia, and it's really just a culmination of Attack on Titan artwork, storytelling, and the vision over the past decade. I know in the past I've kind of said AOT is not the GOAT, but seeing this appreciation for an anime just in real life, I mean, it's a different experience. So that's why I wanted to go see it. Doesn't mean I don't like AOT. It just, it's really cool to see that, especially in a museum.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because I think in a previous podcast, I mentioned that I went to a Hayao Miyazaki art exhibit down in LA. And I don't know if there's been many instances of that, right? Where there's like an appreciation or something, really just an exhibit related to anime. I don't know if I've seen that before outside of something like Anime Expo or all these expos / conventions, whatever, the cons. So it's kind of crazy to think about where AOT is kind of getting that recognition at a level that Miyazaki is getting in the US, which is wild to think about.
Yeah, so I mean, they are selling pretty cool pieces of, I don't know, art or clothing or merchandise basically at this exhibit. And it's pretty cool. You can get like, the Scouts uniform, you can get all that type of stuff. It's pretty pricey, but I mean, if you are an AOT fan and you really like that type of merchandise, I mean, this is a really cool place to get it because it's essentially verified, it's official. It's not like you're getting some knockoff. But yeah, right now it's in Singapore. This is the first stop of this exhibit. I don't know where it's going next, but if it does end up in your city, whether that's wherever you are, you want to just come visit, I would recommend seeing it because like you said, I think all these anime exhibits and museums, they just give you a different perspective on, different views, I guess, on anime versus manga versus real life.
Yeah, the creation process of anime is crazy. It's so crazy. It's something that we don't really appreciate till we see it in person, which hopefully you get to see it in person because I'm sure there's something really complex going behind the scenes of AOT, obviously, because there's just so much plot building and the art is like amazing. It probably set a new standard of its time 10 years ago, which is crazy to think about too, that AOT's been going on for, I guess, that long, or the popularity has remained consistent for 10 years. But hopefully you get to see it. I think in terms of the merch, for the Miyazaki Museum, they had like, I don't know if it's called exclusive merch, but do you know like how they have merchandise that's like limited, kind of like your Baccarat crystals with your Pokemon, where they had like 100 Hayao Miyazaki designed chairs and it's only sold at this exhibit. Is there something like that in like AOT's exhibit too, or is it just like the general cosplay stuff, art slash maybe puzzles or mugs and stuff like that?
I have no idea if it's limited, but I know it's expensive. And by expensive, I mean at least like $300, $400 for some of the items. But yeah,
Holy.
I have no idea if it's limited. I guess
If
that's
there's a
something I'll
limited
have
thing,
to
you gotta buy it.
find out. No, I don't know, man. Last time I left with a very expensive Pikachu crystal. I don't know if my wallet's gonna support a Levi Scouts uniform or you know what I would buy. I think one of the items that I saw on display was Annie's ring that she uses to cut her finger. That would be pretty cool, I think.
Oh, that's pretty cool because it's subtle, right? You can't even tell it's from AOT unless you're a fan from AOT.
Yeah, unless you can flip out that little like dagger piece, that would be pretty cool. But it'd have to be like safe proof because I know it. I would probably cut my finger open.
Yeah. But the thing with at least the Pokemon crystal, from what we've seen historically or what we are seeing currently, a lot of things related to Pokemon go up in price over the course of time, right? Whether that be the original cartridge and the box of the games or the card game, a lot of things have gone up in price with Pokemon. So at least for your Pokemon crystal, you're not taking an L probably because it's just probably something that's here to stay. With Attack on
Right.
Titan, it might fizzle out in the next 10 years or so. I don't know. So maybe don't
You,
take the gamble on that.
I was eating at izakaya here a few weeks back. This is the last trip, and I saw the Okage uniform, Naruto's Okage uniform, hanging on the wall, along with an Akatsuki uniform. And I
Wow.
mean, there's no reference beside that to Naruto, but it just kind of reminded me that it's kind of cool. It's like a jersey, right? I think, a lot of people hang jerseys on their wall. I know you used to do it growing up with some of your favorite players. It'd actually be kind of cool, to just slowly collect anime pieces of clothing. I mean, something that, people see and they would just recognize instantly. Like, I think you would recognize the AOT uniform anywhere. You'd recognize the Naruto uniform anywhere. You'd recognize the Akatsuki uniform anywhere. So, those are just interesting. I guess it's more for your personal hobby rather than, for resale value. But Pokemon, like you said, has a lot of potential to resell. And, I enjoy watching, pack openings, especially some of these old ones where, they're opening first edition packs from, back in the day from the first release, second release. But it did make me think, like, how many of these boxes are still left? Like, eventually has to run out, right? These boxes get more and more expensive. I mean, at some point, this is really going to be a thing of the past, I would think. But who knows?
I don't know. Pokemon's just been going up in value in all the different respects. So I have no idea where it's going trajectory wise, but it's almost like holding a stock where it just goes up naturally over the course of the year. But in terms of the clothing, I guess like kind of going back to our like conversation about the manga books last week and like having something that's a collectible or something that's like collecting something that's I guess important to you in the hobby. Would you rather have clothes or would you rather have like art on your wall?
I personally would rather have art. I think art's really cool. I mean, it's just a different take, and it's something that you can display, take with you, resell if you really want to resell art. Clothing, I think it's nice. It's a cool like phase. It might be nice to have one or two items, but it doesn't hold that kind of aesthetic look that hanging an art piece has.
Yeah, the art pieces are a lot easier. Plus, it gives, I don't know, it almost has a vibe. It almost makes you feel artistic in a sense. I don't know if I would put clothes up, but I would think that there's some iconic things like the Akatsuki uniform is something that's very iconic and is in a lot of places really. I think Frick, I forgot which team did a collaboration with this, but one of the gaming teams, I think either Team Liquid or 100 Thieves, did a collaboration where a Naruto collaboration where a lot of their clothes were kind of designed with the Akatsuki like symbol or like the red clouds, and it's really cool. It's like super iconic, so it's like so easy to identify, right?
Can we
So
get you to say Akatsuki like 5 times in a row? I think the way you say it just sounds so much cooler than the way I say it.
I don't know about that. I'm just probably saying it wrong in either English or Japanese. I'm just saying it to say it.
I mean, that's my personal opinion. I butcher everything. I butcher English. I butcher Japanese. I'm doing a disservice to everyone here.
It's a tough life out here living in that medium of Japanese and English.
Yeah, well, I was bad at English too, so it's hard for me. It's hard for me to say what's right and what's wrong.
Kind of going off topic, but kind of going in line with what we were talking about. Have you seen the new anime NFTs?
No, I mean, is that even legal?
From what I've seen, it's not technically legal, but they're using anime, like real life anime stuff as a base to create NFTs. So let's, for example, like a silhouette of Naruto's head, for example. So like that's obviously not copyright friendly, I think. I think they're kind of crossing this boundary where they're doing something somewhat illegal. But do you want to see NFTs kind of go into the anime world, considering we like art and would prefer to have art on our walls? Would you ever invest in an anime NFT?
Okay, so I guess my problem with an anime NFT is at the very core root of these images, they're really owned by the production studios. And as cool as some of these fan drawn, NFTs, pictures, whatever you want to call them can be, I think there's some legality issues that would come back from reselling. Basically you can sell an NFT, and the whole purpose of NFT is really to own that picture, the content there. But if you never owned it to begin with,
There's
is
no
that a
value,
loophole,
right?
or is there just no value? Exactly. Like if you go put an NFT out of like Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, and it looks really cool and people buy it, it resells for a lot, and then Mappa goes and says like, hey, you can't do that anymore, you need to take it down. Really, Mappa has no say to take it down, but at the same time, you can't go out and make copies of your NFT and resell it in a physical form versus like a normal NFT. You own that picture. You can go make as many pictures and copies as you want and then sell them. I mean, you own that picture. There's no copyright there. But if the source material is copyright, I think there could be some issues there. Like you own this
Yeah. Yeah.
this fake picture, but you can do nothing more with it. And I think that it loses the real value there of the NFT.
Yeah, we're riding a fine line, I think, at this point now. And I think it was somewhat of a big deal this past week because there's a lot of copyright issues, like you said, and a lot of legality issues that could come out of it. And I think what they're trying to do is trying to get some of these bigger anime content creators to kind of, market their product, advertise their product, sponsor them so that they would talk about it more. But a lot of people just don't want to talk about it because they don't want to get caught in this legality issue potentially. And I don't want to go into this like NFT rabbit hole, but I just wanted to see if this was something that could potentially be of interest, considering, we do like the art aspect of anime. But maybe if it was like original anime art, then it'd be a little bit more interesting than using a direct copy of something that's actually in real life.
Right. And I really like NFTs. I mean, I don't want to go into my whole crypto spiel right now. But if like Mappa had a verified account and they were putting out, different pictures of all their characters throughout the years and different scenes, I would buy one. I mean, that would be pretty cool to say, like, I bought this from Mappa. I mean, it's verified. I own, this picture of, I don't know, whoever I want.
Okay, I guess this is another question for you then. Do you think these studios should actually go into the NFT market to sell the art related to these characters? / is there actually a legality issue with the manga artists if they were to sell them? Like, does the manga artist actually have to sell them, or can these studios potentially be a gateway for these manga artists to sell them?
I think if there was some royalty on the sale, the manga artists might might be okay with it, but at the very decision, I think, lies with the studio who created these pictures. I'm sure in the contracts when they turned a manga or a light novel into an anime, there's probably some contract there that, you can turn it into an anime, you can create these still frames, but after that, you can't go and take these pictures and, sell them elsewhere without giving royalties back to the writer. I'm sure that's written in contract somewhere. Again, I'm not a writer, I'm not a production studio. I don't really know all these details, but that's how I would see it. And unless that was worked out, I mean, you have to make sure that no one's really doing something that's illegal there. And so if it's a big studio that bought the rights to an anime or a manga, then essentially I think they can do whatever they want. And I think they should get into NFTs in that sense, because it's a way to put out their material and really just get people interested. And if everyone owned like a different scene or a different picture, everything, I think people would buy that type of material. And I think it's cool. You could be a collection, right? It could almost be your way of collecting the anime that you've watched over the years. Doesn't need to be, a My Anime List account at this point. It's just you're collecting NFTs of the anime you watch. And then if you want to ever load your account, you can go see, what anime have you watched, and you bought a character of X from this anime because, you liked it. And it's a good way to keep track of that. In my opinion, that's how I would see it. But again, you'd have to have the anime industry adopt it.
Can you imagine how crazy the NFT market would be if, let's just say, UFO Table was like, let's create a Demon Slayer NFT line, and you have every single Hashira as one NFT each? How expensive is that gonna be? Because I swear to God, that could go, I think, for more than like 50 to 100K, even maybe more.
If they gave you if they basically came out and said, you buy this Hashira, you buy, Rengoku, and you can do whatever you want with him at this point. You can go sell his picture, you can put it on shirts, you can resell it, you can put it on whatever you want. That'd be really cool. And I think that would have value. That would have potentially real long lasting value.
That would be super expensive, dude. It will be crazy. I think if NFTs actually go like legally into the anime scene, not this like illegal route where these random people are kind of just using images that they don't have the rights to. I think it could potentially be, I don't know if it's a problem, but I could totally see the market being extremely expensive because it kind of feeds into the waifu culture, the husbando culture, the simp culture in a sense, where you want to have the characters that you love, and it could almost be like slightly obsessive because we see people nowadays, right, where they could get goods related to one specific character, a favorite character. Let's just use like Gojo, for example, because Gojo's so lovable, so popular by everyone, whether it be the female or male crowd. If like a Gojo NFT sold, I could totally see a lot of people just either collecting it up because they love Gojo so much and they just like simp over him in a sense. And it would just create a roller coaster of a market.
I mean, so like Topshop, right? They sell sports clips, I guess you could say, of a lot of NBA players. I think they're getting into other sports as well. I guess they have to have a contract to sell some video clip of a real life moment, right? I could see anime doing the same thing. Again, you just have to kind of work it out. But I could definitely see that some of the stuff being expensive unless you sold duplicates, right? I'm sure you could have like, the scene Gojo using his, what is it called? Infinite Void. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you had that scene and you said like, we're selling 1,000 of these GIFs of this at high quality, like 4K resolution, hey, you might make some extra money there.
Yeah, this is an untapped market that might get tapped later on and create, I guess, like not an uproar, but create a wave of new, I guess, goods or products that are related to anime. I guess that's my NFT tangent here. One thing I wanted to ask you, since you're in Singapore, is why is anime so big there? Like, why do you think when you were there was like a Pokemon exhibit too. That's not really anime, but somewhat Japanese culture-ish. That was there. Now there's an AOT exhibit there. There's a lot of these places that have a lot of anime stuff, or I guess people that love anime too. Why is it so big there? Or why do you think it's so big there?
I think anime and, maybe more of the Asian cultures has just been more widely accepted and it's been around for longer. It hasn't been so hidden as it has been, in the United States. And I think a lot of people just, they don't frown upon it. They actually encourage it. I actually think it's just a way for people to kind of bond over a show. And Singapore is very diverse. I mean, they have people from all cultures and all ethnicities here, and I think people just enjoy it as like for what it is. It's not, I mean, maybe there are certain shows that people would frown upon, but for the most part, I think everyone, accepts what other people watch and they enjoy it and seeing that type of art. Which isn't a great answer because, again, I'm not Singaporean. I don't know how ingrained anime is in the culture here. But yeah, like you said, I've seen it around a lot and people just seem to talk about it openly. Whenever I ask questions about it, there's just no shame here. Versus, if an AOT exhibit opened in Orange County or Los Angeles, I mean, I'm sure some people would be like, why would you go spend money to go see an anime exhibit? I think that's what my parents would tell me.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It almost feels like when you talk about Singapore and how openly they talk about anime, it almost feels like you're in Japan actually. And there just isn't like a difference between the two because obviously in Japan it's like very popular, very openly accepted, and it's never frowned upon. Or it could be frowned upon in some regards, but it's not, I guess a majority of the population wouldn't frown upon it. I think it's changing in the US in a sense. I don't know why it's changing in the US. And I was like talking about this with a few of my friends a couple of days ago, where it almost feels like K-pop and anime have come from the underground and just has become this widely accepted popular thing, or it's like almost like looked at as cool to be into those things now, which was not the case when we were growing up. So it's kind of crazy to see that evolution over time. And then, but then Singapore just feels like there's always something going on with anime. Every time you go back, it's something new. So it's kind of cool to see.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I really like, just seeing how accepted and how many references there are out here. I like it. And I think it's going to grow. I think that's what's going to proliferate out into other areas, the US, Western states. And I think, this is just the start.
Yeah, I totally think so. I think it will just keep changing over time. And as things get more widely popular globally, even something like Demon Slayer, I do think like Demon Slayer almost broke this like barrier or boundary that was maybe like just a self-inflicted thing that Japan had set on themselves, or maybe it was just something that was created in the US more so because we saw this like barrier where people weren't accepting of anime beforehand. But now Demon Slayer has just turned into this like global sensation where that barrier almost doesn't exist. And I would think that there will be more anime that will come out in the future that will basically do the same thing and be widely accepted across like different countries.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with that. And I guess over the next couple of years, I mean, maybe we're really going to see something take off.
Yeah. Well, I guess I wanted to get your sense on how the Singapore scene was and also on this whole art thing. But one thing I want to talk about on this podcast, as we were talking about the variety of things over the last few episodes, was a standardized score on our podcast. Because one, my rating system is completely different from your rating system. So maybe to make it easier for the audience, it'd be easier to create a standardized scoring system. But also just talk about what makes an anime mid, what makes an anime bad, what makes anime a masterpiece, like what really is the difference between those, right? So I guess like starting it off, and as we kind of go through this conversation, we could kind of create this like scoring system. But starting it off, what makes an anime really good? Like, what do you really look for in a masterpiece? And is there actually an anime that you think is a masterpiece?
I mean, a masterpiece is hard to define. I have very few things in my life that I've probably declared a masterpiece, except maybe some of my drawings as a child on the refrigerator, because those were carefree days and, full of life and full of dreams.
It was your shonen arc.
That was when I thought, my future life was Hall of Fame basketball, Hall of Fame baseball, something cool. And look where we are today, corporate America. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, but yeah, I mean, masterpiece. That's hard. That's hard to describe. But I guess I can tell you what I look for. I think first of all, what I prioritize has changed over the past couple of years. I really prioritize the plot and the art a lot these days. And I think beforehand, art was my main thing I would look at. It was my main filter to decide what's gonna be good or bad. But having the art change so much over the years, I'm not sure if it's still the best judge of an anime, and that's why I kind of really care a lot about the plot these days. But really, I think lately when I can feel attached to the characters, I feel like I can support the anime, and it makes me more biased. And I think all anime rating is biased to some sense, whether or not you can agree with certain characters. But I think when you can really support someone in the show, it helps add to that whole masterpiece conversation. Kind of like your favorite player on a sports team. Yeah, they might not be the best, but if they're your favorite player, you kind of like the team. And then that kind of just makes you slightly biased towards, this is a great team. This is one of my favorite teams I've ever seen.
Do you think when you're kind of rating, let's just say what we're reviewing an anime, do you think plot, characters, and animation should all have the same weight in a scoring system? Or do you think one of those is more important or two of those are more important?
If you asked me a year ago, I would have said plot and art are probably the most important, and then probably characters. But lately, after watching Ranking of Kings, I really like it when you can just support a character, and they have Ranking of Kings. I mean, artwork is very unique. It's not high quality, clean cut 4K
bad.
anime, but it's not bad. But it's not great. Should that take away from what Ranking of Kings is? No, I don't think so anymore. But as a plot, as a character you can support, the different complexities in it, I think this is a damn good show. And I really like seeing it from that perspective. And now I've seen a lot of cool art that is just trash anime. Like, I thought Peach Boy Riverside, I was like, oh, this art's not bad. Watched one episode. Oh my god, what what did I just watch?
Do you think judging an anime by the art is almost judging a book by its cover, though? Where
Nowadays, yes.
Yeah,
Nowadays,
you're
yes.
jumping to a conclusion just based off of the looks of an anime. And going off of what you said, right? We've also saw something like Tacked Up that was great animation-wise. We were all hyped about it looking at the trailer. We saw that it was a collab between Madhouse and Mappa, and we were like, "Oh shit, this is it. This is the saving grace of 2021 anime." And it was probably one of the most disappointing anime that we saw in 2021 because all it really had was animation and no substance. So I do think that nowadays when these studios are pumping out a lot of good-looking shows, it's a lot easier now to create shows that have great animation. But a lot of these shows sometimes just lack the quality in the plot or the characters, etc. And going back to what you said, we have the flip side of things where, like you said, Ranking of Kings animation isn't bad. It's just unique. It's different. And it might be the kind of take that Ranking of Kings needed, to be honest, because it does give a more like fairy tale-esque feel to it. And it really is like a Japanese fairy tale in a sense. It's not like a traditional anime or anime story. And we also saw something like Sunny Boy, where the art was completely unique, completely something that we haven't seen before. Was in the conversation of anime of the year, purely based off the experience of the plot and substance that it provided. Granted, once again, we have not yet done the Sunny Boy review because I failed to watch all the episodes up to this point, but that will come next week, I promise. And another show I could think of off the top of my head in 2021 that had unique animation was Odd Taxi. Odd Taxi's animation was not something that a lot of people would probably enjoy, not something that people are drawn to, but the plot, characters, the writing set it apart. And it's, I think, almost like a 9 out of 10 on Mal. And it's not really held down by that animation, or like it's not being pulled to the top by the animation, which something like Demon Slayer might be, right? It might be a lot of weight being put into that animation category, but not a lot that's being put into the plot category. So I guess kind of going off of that, what if you were, I guess, let's say we are given 20 points to allocate in like these like different categories, how much weight would you put into plot and characters, and how much would you put into like animation at this point?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I think there's definitely other categories there, but I would probably say the plot is definitely worth about 25%, maybe 30% of that anime. I would probably give it 3 points. I mean, no, 6 points. My math is wrong. 6 points for plot, and maybe 5 points for, maybe 4 points for animation. So 6 points for plot, 4 points for animation.
Okay.
And I think that would be like, maybe that could be like half, and maybe 4 points for character, I guess, the feel of it.
Okay, so the character and the animation kind of go in the same realm, hand
Yeah,
in
they're pretty
hand, same
close,
weight.
right? I mean, to kind of have a character that you like, I mean, a lot of it does dwell on the animation of that character. It's rarely the character personality, which, I mean, some characters you do like them for the personality, but usually you have favorite characters a little bit because of the way they're animated. So I do
Yeah,
think they're
how
a
they
little hand in
look.
hand, and there's some overlap there. I don't know if, both should be worth 4 points, or if we should go like a 3-3. Um, so I think that's some difference there, and I think that has to be taken for, a grain of salt. I don't know what you would think, but I know for you, there's score. Score is important. Opening, ending, just to name a few. Complexity of the show. Is it an experience? Is it not an experience? Is it more of a light read, or light watch, or something that you have to really sit down and think about? And I think all of those different factors are very hard to judge, because it's almost like every genre needs to be judged in its own way. And to kind of encompass all this anime into, I don't know, a few main topics outside of plot and character design and animation, it becomes kind of hard. It becomes a little bit tricky, right?
Yeah, I guess what would you say are like the other categories outside of those three? We'll call it the big three categories. Outside of those three, what else like warrants like consideration? Because like you said, there's music, there's score. Opening and closing is very big in anime, right? It's been a staple in anime since, I don't know, the 90s. It's been there for a long time. We saw it in like Cowboy Bebop, which came out like over 30 years ago at this point. So that's still a staple feeling in anime. There's also like, your enjoyment, your experience, I guess, your personal attachment to the show, which is completely different too. There's also, I don't know if writing goes in hand with the plot. It could. I think it very well could be in the same category, like the script writing. I don't know. Are there any other categories that you would kind of allocate those like 20 points to?
I think you touched on, the main ones. I do really think opening, ending, and the music or the score they're separate items, and they should be, and they both should be included. I've always wondered if I hold anime to some standard in terms of how well did it adapt from the light novel or the manga.
Mm,
And I don't know if that's part of the writing, like you said, But I feel like adaptation should be worth something, because something that holds true to the manga, some people might say they like that more, right? Those are those people who like, they're the manga stans, and they said they want this to be as true as possible. And there's others who think that's dry. They want to see a studio's take on it. And I think when both sides can agree that whatever was done well, I think that deserves points. Because that's not really plot anymore. That's just really how was it adapted. And we've seen plenty of great manga adapted into terrible anime. And it's just sad when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, that one's like really hard, right? Because sometimes go, you deter from the manga, and the anime is actually better by deterring away from it. But there's something like Full Metal Alchemist where it originally came out but didn't stick to the manga, and a lot of people were upset about it. They created Brotherhood again, which stayed true to the manga, and it was a huge success, right? Like a lot of people love it to this day. Obviously, the US fans consider this like the GOAT essentially. And that was successful because it stayed true to the manga. But there are other shows that can't do the same thing. Let's say like the manga's like 100 chapters, you get 13 episodes. You can't do that. Like you can't stay true to the manga because you would have no ending. You would just have like the training arc and it would end. It is a really hard discussion point because I don't know what the right answer is. It's just whether or not the anime was executed correctly or not.
Yeah, I think in this type of grading system, there's got to be like maybe 15% of those points, maybe at least 2-3 points that are just personal bias, and I think you have to account for that.
Okay, this might be like a shameless plug, but I do something called Chris's lunch break reviews on Patreon, where I basically do like a 1 sentence review for the categories that I think are most important in an anime, and I allocate basically 20 points. And in the end, I take 20 points because 20 points is easily divisible into 100 because it's just 5 out of 5 at the end, right? Like I don't know how to describe it if people aren't good at math, but it's in the end like gonna be a score out of 5. And how I allocate it is it's based on plot, characters, animation, like you said, and then those are all get 5 points each. But I actually think now that I've had this discussion with you, like plot should be way higher and the animation should be lower. So I'll probably adjust that. And then I give like 3 points to music and score, combination of opening and ending, and also like the score throughout the anime. And then I put 2 points to just personal enjoyment. Like how much did I personally enjoy the anime? I don't care about what other people are saying. I don't care what the reviews say. My personal thoughts about it. Because I do think there should be weight to how much you yourself actually like the show. Like not everyone's going to love every single show. Not everyone loves Jujutsu. Not everyone loves Demon Slayer. Not everyone loves Full Metal Alchemist. It's just up to you, right? So then I get to like a 20-point number. So let's just say I got 16 points out of 20. Then that would be like a 8. That's a 80%, right? I can't do math. Oh, I know. It would be like a 4 out of 5 in the end, I think. So like that's how I'm grading it. But yeah.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think like you said, personal enjoyment, I think that's a great way to put it. Any show you watch, anything you do, personal enjoyment should have value there. And it's almost like the whole jury score versus, critic score that we went over. Everyone's going to have their own opinions, but if you like the anime, you like it.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I guess like my proposal to you for like, let's create a scoring system just for our podcast. Screw Mao. I don't care about their 10-point scale. A scoring system just for us. Knowing what your scoring system is, right? Your scoring system was F, D, C, B, and A. And that's it, right? Do you think what makes sense is a 5-point score? Similar to like kind of how I do these like lunch break reviews where we allocate certain number of points. And in the end, we get 5 out of 5, which is an A, 4 out of 5, which is a B, 3 out of 5, which is a C, an average, and then 2 out of 5, which is a D, and then 1 out of 5, which is a F. And you could use the decimals like 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. Thinking 0.5 makes the most sense. Or I guess you could go to the 0.25s and the 0.75s.
Oh, you don't like my 0.67s, my 0.63s?
I don't know where. How do you do the math for the 0.67s? I just don't get it. But like, I feel like those like categories are like the main ones that we kind of consider. But I do think, like, you're right. I do think plot needs to be given more weight than some of these other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're aligning on some type of scale, I agree. I think a 5-point scale with, the occasional 0.5 is justified. And I think the way we kind of critique anime and watch it, I would agree. I think it makes sense. Actually, I was talking to one of my friends who listened to the Skate the Infinity podcast. And they're like, so what was your overall rating on Skate? And I said, 7.6. And they're like, is that good or bad? And I said, I think it's pretty good. You should watch it. I was like, but there are better anime out there. And they were like, so like, what are some of those better ones? I was like, 86, Ranking of Kings. And they kind of asked the same question you did. Is like, so is the 7.6 a big difference from an 8.3? And I was like, yeah, my scale it is. But yeah, I guess going to a 5-point system, that would change things, right? We might be at like, a 5 or 4.5 versus a 3.5, which sounds a lot different.
I think like Google reviews, right? And Yelp in the US, at least. I know Yelp's not a thing, not like outside of the US. I think they're both off of a 5-point scale. And it makes it easier to kind of like see what's really good and bad, because when we use something like Yelp, for those people that don't know what Yelp is, it's a restaurant review app. So if you want to find something to eat, it's the easiest thing to do. You type in like, I want boba in the around the current location I'm at, and then you get a bunch of restaurants that are categorized in this boba category, and they give you the 5-star rating for each of them that are provided by the Yelp users. So you could get 5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, etc. And you could go into the halves, but not more so than the 0.5s, more granular than that. And it's easy because a lot of people who use Yelp in the US are like, 4 is like the bare minimum they would go down in order to decide what restaurant they want to eat at. It's a separate question of whether or not that's fair or not, but a lot of people do that, right? So you can kind of differentiate between 3, that place is just average, so I really want to go eat at a place that's average, versus 4 that's above average, and it's like, maybe I want to go eat there instead. So I feel like doing a 5-point scale is more in line with what you are doing, just cutting out the I guess like 5 points or less, so that it's all kind of grouped in this one category of F of like 1 out of 5. And then now you get this, like, it's easier to differentiate, a system that's easier to differentiate between like what's average, what's above average, what's the golden standard or a masterpiece anime in that A category of 5 out of 5, and everything else that's kind of just bad of 2 out of 5 and 1 out of 5.
What can I say? I think people should adopt my point decimal system. I'm just kidding.
All right, we're not going to the 0.67s. That's not happening.
Okay, you brought up a really good point, and I want to kind of come back and ask you a couple questions on this. Is you talked about restaurants, you talked about Yelp, you talked about Google reviews 1 through 5, basically star ratings, right? Now, for those who don't live in the US, I think is it the FDA? I don't know, but they grade restaurants, on A through, I think it goes through F. I've only seen it down to C, I think, on health,
Right.
health and cleanliness. Now, I've ate at plenty of restaurants that have like C's, but they serve the best damn food ever, and I don't give a shit how dirty it is. I'm like, dude, this food is great. I will ignore that C like it never existed. I actually don't even really look at these A through C's anymore. And maybe I just go to, a lot of jank restaurants, a lot of hole in the walls. But I just care about the food at the end of the day. Is this equivalent to animation, or does animation hold more weight than cleanliness at a restaurant? If the plot is outstanding, do you care at all about the animation?
I think the health score is not animation. I do think the health score is a category that you consider when you're doing like a review. So let's just say the food is a plot, right? That's a main dish or the main thing that you get at a restaurant. Maybe service is the characters, and then or the animation, and then like health and cleanliness could be like another subset of categories. Maybe there needs to be more weight than something like music and score in an anime, but maybe it doesn't have the same weight as animation. I don't know. But I just think it's like one category of a restaurant, which doesn't necessarily mean that, let's say if they had a C, but their food is like A++ and their service is A++, it's going to average out where you give like a 4 out of 5 to the restaurant because they screw up one category, but then the main categories are really solid and really good, right? So I think same thing with anime. You could have the shittiest music and score, but you could love the show, you could love the characters, the plot could be like 100% the best plot we've ever seen, and it'd still be a 4 out of 5 or a 4.5 out of 5. And the biggest gripe was just that your music was bad, and that's it. So that's how I view it, at least.
And what about redundancy? Like, I can speak from personal experience. I love, with capital LOVE, watching the same story with different characters, aka isekai shonens.
Oh man, originality. I do think that is something that should be considered, right? But what category does that fall into? Or should it be its own category? I don't know. I don't know what that actually falls into. I don't think it should be its own category, but it should be something that's either considered in all of the categories. So let's just say like original animation, original plot, original characters, original music and score, right? Like it's like, I do think it's something you consider in all of the categories, not as like itself, because one, you could love the redundancy or hate the redundancy, but you would need to almost factor that redundancy into like every single category to really see where that redundancy lies, right?
Right, and I think originality is very hard to judge, because if you're adapting from manga, does the core problem lie at the manga or the light novel? Is it really the anime fault?
Yeah, I mean, like the core problem could be just the original story, right? And that is what it is. Like, I don't think that's anything the animation studio can really do about it, or there's not anything that they can do to fix it. So
Okay, well, I think we can align on this 5 point system going forward. And I think it's good that we had this discussion. I think from now on, for everyone listening, we're going to be giving these reviews in this 5 point system. And that's kind of why we wanted to touch on it today. Me and Chris have been talking a lot about anime. We've been giving a lot of reviews, and our scales don't match. It gets confusing. So we're just trying to make it simple. And we're going to give our honest 1 through 5 reviews, kind of going forward. And that's kind of why we had that discussion. I think for those who want to have their own scales, I mean, however you want to rate anime, that's on your choice. And as long as you stay consistent, I think it doesn't really matter what you do, what you rate. If you want to rate everything 9 through 10 and just go 9.1, 9.2, hey, that's all right too.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really just to standardize something. So like prior to our review of Sunny Boy, which I will for sure finish in the next week, it was probably just better to set a standard score so that we could get to a conclusion that's actually comparable rather than our scales just being completely different. So that's pretty much what it was. But when you see these like scores, or like when you like, let's just say look up these like MAL scores, right? Does it ever set like like a bad expectation, or it creates like too much hype almost in a sense? Or it could be the opposite way, where it's like, oh, these scores just don't really mean much, or it's too low, but you go watch it and then you think it's actually a lot better than what the score provides. Like, do you think it sets like a weird expectation in your head that actually ruins your anime experience?
There's some bias in the mouse scores. I don't like looking them up before I've seen them, and I kind of curious, like, what is this rated? Because there's a couple shows I really like, and yeah, they're rated kind of poorly on Mal, and I'm just kind of sad, and it just makes me feel bad about myself. But there are other shows that are rated really highly, and I watch it, and it's just lackluster for me. So it's definitely personal opinion, and that's why at the end of the day I take it with a grain of salt. I think it's nice to have some type of review, just a reference, and it's a good like basis as to whether or not I should watch something. Because if something's like rated a 5 on Mal, I probably won't give it a chance. Like basically, once it's too low on Mal, I accept it.
One thing though that happens a lot, I think, not just in anime, and I'm gonna go back to this like restaurant comparison, but some people will tell you, dude, this restaurant 5 out of 5, best meal I've ever had in my life. And then I'm like, oh shit, like I gotta go check out this restaurant, right? And then I drive, let's say, an hour to go eat at the restaurant. I get there, wait a little bit because it's so hype, and then I finally sit down, order the food, and then I'm like, this food's not that good. Have you ever had that with anime where someone or the community just hyped it up so much? Maybe this is AOT for you, that your experience actually never lived up to that hype. You just never understood what that hype was, and it just kind of died down, or like you didn't get the experience that you wanted to get out of it per the other people that were telling you how it should be.
Yeah, I think one that comes to mind, and I think I just haven't given enough episodes, but I really tried. Was March Comes In Like a Lion.
Oh, that's hard though.
I am trying to fall in love with this, but I still haven't got through the first season.
I think March is
But it was hyped up. It was hyped up so much to me, and not just by you. I had many people tell me like this is an awesome show, and I was like, oh okay. Couldn't really get into it. I don't know.
I
It's
do think March is a niche show in a sense. I don't think it's for everyone. It almost is like the Sunny Boy of whenever it came out. Um, I just don't think it's a show that appeals to everyone. But for the people that it does click, it clicks really well. Maybe it's a Fruits Basket. Maybe it's closer to Fruits Basket.
Yeah, so maybe it's the category because usually when shonens are really hyped up, I know what I kind of can expect it. So part of me doesn't over expect because at the end of the day, how good can a shonen really be in terms of plot, in terms of all of this, right?
Yeah. March Comes In Like a Lion also came out, I think, really similarly timeline wise to My Teen Romantic Comedy. And the main characters to me are pretty similar in a sense that they're really either pessimistic or they just have gone through a lot of shit in their life and have a lot of baggage. And I feel like they at least for me, maybe it's like it's set like a weird interaction between the two where I just loved My Teen Romantic Comedy so much that that it gave me the similar vibes that I loved. I don't know, it like kind of played off each other because it would fill the gap when one was not currently playing or coming out in the season. So it was just like almost a tandem depression anime.
See, that's tough, right? Because if you're like coupling anime to like fill in voids, does that skew your rating?
It could. I think it could skew it technically. I do still think March Comes In Like a Lion is really good. But I do think it's for a very niche audience. Like it's not for everyone for sure. It's super dark in a sense. Or I don't know if dark is the right word. It's like almost depressing in a sense. The story is just surrounding like such a sad scenario that like if you don't like sad shows or if you don't like shows that are just centered around feelings, it just doesn't make any sense for a lot of people, or like it wouldn't be something to watch. It would just get boring.
I like feelsy shows. I like crying my eyes out. But March Comes in Lion it's just like you said, more just sad.
Yeah, the first season is just all sad too, and then the second season is where like kind of the revival happens. Yeah, it's just like a flood of sadness for 13 episodes. I don't know if anyone can really handle that, right? It's just too much to some degree.
Yeah, so I guess coming back to your question, has something been overhyped? Of course. There's always overhyped expectations with anime, food, anything in life. I think when people hype up something enough and you create a bias in your head and you have that thought there, it's very hard to separate out, what was your true feeling if you had never heard about this versus is it meeting the expectations people set within you?
Right, right. I guess on the flip side though, is there any show that got such a low score, but you watched it and you were like, dude, this is a 10 out of 10, or this is something I've really, really enjoyed? Don't tell me it's Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt, please.
Yo, I really enjoy that show. I really enjoyed Assassin. One show that I think I was surprised didn't get more attention, I think it never broke 8 on Mal, was Carol and Tuesday. I really liked Carol and Tuesday. And I really thought it deserved a bit more attention than what it got.
I wonder why Carol and Tuesday actually didn't pop off as much as something like Violet Evergarden did.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the art, but it's not ranked very high. It's not too popular on Mal. I mean, I've never heard anyone talk about it except us. But I really liked it. What about you?
Yeah, it just never got the hype. In terms of shows that kind of I unexpectedly liked when the score was so low, and I might get flack for this, was actually Darling in the Franxx. It's a little weird at times, but I actually really enjoyed the show. And maybe it's just because I like 02 as a character a lot, but that's pretty much it. And I don't know. It might be like a guilty pleasure show, but everyone set the standard in my head that Darling in the Franxx was like absolute shit. And plot wise, it kind of is shit, but I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
I mean, 02 is a very likable character. I can completely see why you would, say it's a good show. I think plot-wise it might be lacking, but it's definitely entertaining. I liked it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, it's personal preference, and I don't want to drag this on. I know we keep saying the same thing. So I think everyone's going to have those anime out there that they're going to believe should have got more popularity. They should have been more well-received. But at the end of the day, if you didn't hear about it, it's probably some lacking part on either the studio or, something that one of us probably isn't seeing, and maybe that's what's lacking. Karen Tuesday didn't really have any advertising. And, it's probably just word of mouth that really gets you around. So as much as hype might overhype something, I think without the hype, you lose the chance to even be great. Unless you're just a lucky, like, diamond in the rough that gets found, and you're this gem of the season. Something like Ranking of Kings.
That is true. I mean, without the hype, people wouldn't even know about it. They wouldn't even hear about it. So maybe it is a good thing just for people to kind of hear about the shows. But there are, like you said, a lot of shows that don't even get a chance to be watched by a lot of people. And there's a lot of good shows out there, 8 out of 10s, or on our new scale, 4 out of 5s that just don't get the recognition that it should. So that totally makes sense. Any closing thoughts from you, Pat? As we round this out, I'll make sure to watch Sunny Boy. I promise I will get through all the episodes. I'll stop playing Elden Ring and actually watch anime for once again.
No closing thoughts. I'm really just catching up on all the anime of the season. I've almost caught up on Vanitas. I think I'm 2 episodes behind. I've caught up on Ranking of Kings. I've watched Sabakui Bisco, Genius Prince. Just really catching up before the end of the season. I think there's a couple weeks left to go. AOT's coming out later today, and I think I'm just kind of just rolling right now. I'm just rolling. I'm just grinding through, just rolling. So I think I'm just gonna keep it going, and when we're ready to review Sunny Boy, I can compare it to some of the other anime I've seen in that category, and I think it's gonna be an interesting episode.
I haven't watched a single thing from this current season in maybe 4 weeks, so you're gonna have to carry the load here a little bit. Your boy is spending his lifetime playing Elden Ring, and has not watched any anime except JoJo. So I
there's a
will
lot of
do my
JoJo
homework.
fans out there. And for those, 86 is back. So honestly, the last episode was great. I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but highly recommend watching 86 if you haven't seen it. And yeah, for those who didn't know it's back, last week was a kind of a recap episode, and this week they're continuing on, and there's one more episode to go, and that's gonna wrap up 86 part 2.
I need to catch up to 86 too, and I'm glad it wasn't just disappointing because we waited so long just for this last episode, but glad to hear it. I'll make sure to do all my homework, and we'll see everyone next week for next week's episode on Sunny Boy. All right, peace out, Weebs.
All right, peace.